Well, the Yankees weren't able to complete the sweep in Pittsburgh as they fall 5-4 in the 11th inning, and this was kind of a rough game. They had that great comeback in the ninth that we're going to talk about that got them into extra innings and gave some hope, but wasn't the best game from top to bottom. But let's break down what happened, and I think a lot of it is, let's start with the offensive struggles in this game. The Yankees had 42 at-bats in this game. 8 hits, 2 walks. Trent Grisham, who continues this hot hitting, was the only guy with multiple hits in the lineup. The only guy, and Anthony Volpe was the only other player with multiple times on base in this game, aside from Grisham. So this lineup kind of struggled from top to bottom. 13 strikeouts in this game. Jazz and Peraza leading the way with 3 apiece. No home runs. We got 3 extra base hits. Peraza and Chisholm doubled, and then Austin Wells tripled. He singled, and O'Neal Cruz kind of, sort of, didn't really care. I don't know. It was a very odd play. If you haven't had a chance, go check out the Bombers Beat podcast X/Twitter handle to kind of see what the play was. But, overall, it was not an exhilarating performance on Sunday afternoon. The Yankees scored in the first inning. Jazz Chisholm double brought home Cody Bellinger, who was good to see him back in the lineup after missing the last 2 games. And then Will Warren looked really good for those first couple innings. And then things kind of came off the rails a little bit in both the third and the fourth inning. Gives up 4 total runs in that stretch, only last 4 innings. But, you start to look at what they were able to do in that 9th inning, and you walk in, you're down 4-1, and you score 3 runs. And this was almost a comeback kids type of story. That inning started, Jazz Chisholm struck out to start the 9th, but then you have Volpe singled. Austin Wells tried to bunt for a hit, wasn't able to do it. So things still weren't looking great. Yeah, you had a runner on, but, you were down to your final out, still down 3. And then Jason Dominguez walks, Oswald Peraza doubled, which got Anthony Volpe in, down 2. And then the man of the weekend, Trent Grisham, singled to right field, brought in Peraza and Dominguez to tie the game. And really, there was a lot of momentum there. Didn't quite carry over into extra innings. It was kind of a sleepy set of extra innings for both teams. The 11th inning ends, with Devin Williams coming in. But, that sequence of events when you have the ghost runner on, Jack Swinsky was placed on second. You had a fly out to left field. Swinsky steals third. And then, Tommy Pham hits one to deep left field that, Dominguez doesn't even try to catch because, at that point it doesn't matter. The game is already over, and I'm not sure he would have been able to catch it anyway. It was pretty deep, but regardless, Tommy Pham was able to walk the game off there in the bottom of the 11th, and it's disappointing. You don't want to sulk too much. You're 6-3. Through 9 games here to start the season. You're going to go on the road, and we're going to talk about some changes that are happening for that series against the Detroit Tigers. But little disappointing. You couldn't pull off the sweep here. Again, as we talked about on yesterday's podcast, you were the better team. It's good to see them come back from that 4-1 deficit, keep fighting into the 9th. We saw that happen when they were down 4. They were down 3 runs in this game going into 9th. They were down 4 against Arizona in that middle game of the series, and they were able to score 3. But it's good they're fighting to the end, but it was a disappointing finish. And it was a disappointing start overall for Will Warren. And it started off so promising. Besides the double he gave up in the first inning, he looked really good in that game for those first 2 innings, was locating pitches, shutting down hitters, and did get 5 strikeouts over those 4 innings, but struggled in the third and fourth innings there, and was really laboring to get through. And I know the Yankees like him a lot. They like his demeanor, but as you start to look at potential options for this team, he's still fighting for a job long term. Clark Schmidt's going to be back, probably in the next 2 weeks. if not in the next week and a half. Luis, he will be back at some point. Rotation spots are going to be up for grabs. Particularly, obviously, you've got Stroman, you've got Carrasco, and you've got Warren. He's a guy that's in that mix of potentially losing out on a rotation spot when the Yankees get healthier. Didn't do a lot to follow up what was a up and down but overall solid first performance. I thought this performance obviously was up and down based on the innings, but overall wasn't what they needed from him. But we'll see what happens in his third start. But let's talk about the monster game from the bullpen. This is another one where we'll talk about Devin Williams in a second and some of the narrative and the conversation that's already happening in the Yankees universe around him. But in this game, 6.1 innings from the bullpen, no earned runs. The only run allowed was the ghost runner on the last play of the game, the walk-off there. But, Brent Hedrick looks really good so far. 2 more innings from him, 4 strikeouts. He's been excellent. Yuendrys Gomez followed up those 4 solid innings that we, or excuse me, 3 solid innings that we saw. Or was it 4 solid innings we saw from him last time? I'm going to double check here because there's 3 solid innings we saw against him a few days ago in Arizona, against Arizona, with another multi-inning effort here. 2 innings, 1 walk, 1 strikeout, no hits allowed. Luke Weaver came out, got a couple innings out of him. Had some tense moments there in the 10th, but was able to get out of it, struck out a couple different batters, 1 walk, no hits, over 2 innings himself. And then, Devin Williams was able to get, 1 out, but he did allow the 1 hit in this game that allowed the ghost runner to score. So, but overall now for the Yankees, they have allowed no earned runs in their last 14 innings pitched out of the bullpen. That's really encouraging. So last 14 innings, no earned runs, and the only unearned run was, again, a ghost runner that was placed on second in the 11th inning of this game against Pittsburgh. So, and I want to talk about that for a second because I know there's been a lot of, I think there's a lot of hand-wringing about Devin Williams so far in the Yankee social media world. And, part of me can understand it in the sense of, this is not somebody you've seen a lot of. This was just his 3rd appearance with the Yankees. He had a very iffy save on opening day. He got the win, or excuse me, he got the save, and the Yankees got the win. But 2 hits and a walk in that inning that he pitched, and he kind of had a white knuckle finish to opening day. Goes on the paternity list. He pitches on Friday, pretty uneventful 1 inning against the Pirates on Friday, and then you see him here and faces 2 batters. Gets an out, but also gives up the game-winning hit with the runner on second base. So it's a little early for there to be a lot of concern or really issues with Devin Williams. Obviously you'd like to see him get the save there, but I guess not the save in that point. I see him hold Pittsburgh and get you to the 12th, but I mean, it is difficult when, you got a runner on second, you get the first guy out, he steals third. You could say how much do you there's this philosophical debate and there's an analytical debate over whether you steal off a catcher or a pitcher and what percentage of each technically matters the most. But I mean, I'm not gonna closers and high leverage relievers in general are not typically strong at holding runners. It's not something that is usually in their skill set. It's not something they typically work on. So I'm not going to freak out that he wasn't able to hold a runner on second there. But this was a disappointing loss. And when you have disappointing losses like this, it's very easy to want to blame somebody. It's also very easy to want to blame the new guy. It's also very easy to want to blame the last thing you see when you come back. It's very interesting when I see a team come back from a deficit and then end up losing a game. You tend to look at what ultimately lost them the game late and not what forced them into a situation where they had to come back in the first place. Not that you want to ever assign blame to any specific person, but Will Warren's third and fourth innings of this game were infinitely worse and infinitely more cost-worthy than Devin Williams' bottom of the 11th. And so I think to place the blame on him when, again, he didn't allow the guy to get on second. They are just placed there. I'm not quite willing to do that. So the Yankees are going to head back on the road. They're going to stay. They're going to go to Detroit now. And I think here's going to be the key. So for those of you that did not hear, whether you didn't watch the broadcast, you were out doing some stuff, or you weren't able to see, I believe Yes Network tweeted it and the Yankees retweeted it, so you might not have seen it. The game times for the entire Detroit series have changed because of cold weather. There's a lot of worry about fans, players, safety, etc. So Monday's game against the Tigers will be a 3:10 p.m. Eastern start time. And then both Tuesday and Wednesday's games in Detroit will be 1:10 p.m. Eastern start times. So those three games were all supposed to be, 7 p.m. night games. They've all been moved up. 3:10 tomorrow because it's a travel day for the Yankees, so they're giving them a little extra time. And then 1:10 each of Tuesday and Wednesday in Detroit. So in that first game of the series, Carlos Rodon is going to take the mound against Casey Mize, who's coming off a very strong start to the season himself. So we will see how things operate with a little bit of an earlier start time. It is technically it's not technically a day game after night game. So we will kind of see how the Yankees operate their lineups a little bit. We did see Cody Bellinger come back in, but I'm excited. They've also faced back-to-back lefties, and Casey Mize is a right-hander. So they're going to face him first before obviously they're going to get a left-hander, a very, very good left-hander in Tariq Schoolball in game 2 on Tuesday. But you're going to be welcoming back a right-handed lineup, lineup against right-handed pitching here as Carlos Rodon goes up against Casey Mize on Monday. Tuesday is Cookie Carrasco and Tariq Schoolball. And then the series finale on Wednesday, Max Fried versus Jack Flaherty. So two right-handed starters going up against the Yankees in this, with the middle one being not just a left-handed starter, but arguably the best left-handed pitcher in baseball, in the American League, in the world, in Tariq Schoolball. So going to be an interesting series for the Yankees. This is, again, another one where we talked about at the beginning of the series that we want, or beginning of the 6-game road trip, is that the goal was 4-2. Come out 4-2. You're 2-1, so you're on pace. You're going to have to go 2-1 again. And this game is going to be huge on Monday because it's going to be tough to get to Schoolball. It really is going to be tough. You are starting, even though he was strong in spring training, you were starting the worst pitcher in your rotation against the best pitcher in the league. So right away, and you're on the road. So right away, that's a tremendous disadvantage in that second game on Tuesday. Doesn't mean you can't overcome it. Happens all the time. It's still baseball. Got to go out there and play the game. Game's not played on paper. But you're going to be at a major disadvantage on Tuesday. So bouncing back, getting a win on Monday is going to go a long way if you hope to win this series and then have a nice little, 2-1 stretch here against the Tigers. Then you get an off day before coming back home for a 6-game homestand against the Giants and the Royals. So that's what I'm going to keep an eye out for as we head toward this series coming in Detroit. In the meantime, disappointing end to this Pirates series, but overall, you're never going to complain about winning 2 of 3 in a series on the road. You win 2 of 3 in a series, more often than not, you're going to be a playoff team. But you got to keep doing it. You got to keep it up. So let's see if they can win 2 of 3 against the Tigers. And let's see if that offense can get back on track when it's going to be cold weather. They're not going to be gifted some of the nice weather days that they had in New York, and they had a couple times here in Pittsburgh. They're going to get some bad weather in Detroit and some unfriendly hitting weather in Detroit. Can this lineup respond? And can the bullpen continue this streak? And can they get stuff from their starters? Again, we talked about this a few podcasts ago, and I don't want to sound like a broken record earlier in the season, but you got to win the games with your high-priced pitchers on the mound. You got Rodon on Monday. You got Fried on Wednesday. You have an opportunity to win both of those games. Schoolball's going to be in the middle, so you're not starting one of your aces against one of their aces. That's the opportunity. Those are the games you need to win. And that starts on Monday against the Tigers. And no matter what happens, we'll be here on the Bombers Beat podcast to break it all down. We'll talk to you then.